Hi everybody, I'm Susan Mulvihill. Welcome back to our garden in Spokane, Washington, where the hardiness zone ranges from 5B to 6A. Now you've probably noticed I'm not out in the vegetable garden, which is way over that way. Today I'm going to be planting up my GreenStalk Vertical Planters, which is something I've been doing for 5 years now. I love the planters and I've got all kinds of cool things to grow in them this year. Now, if you don't have a garden, or you have a really little one and you'd like to grow more things, or you only have a sunny spot, say on your patio, your deck, your front porch, anywhere like that, then growing things in containers is a great alternative because plants do need that sunshine, and I want you to be able to still grow things like vegetables and flowers. So today I want to plant up my 2 GreenStalk Vertical Planters. I'll show you exactly how they work and explain why I like them so much, because they are awesome. GreenStalk planters come in different sizes. There are 7-tier planters that have a bit smaller planting pockets in them, and those work really great for things like herbs and flowers. There are 5-tier planters that have larger planting pockets, and that's what I prefer to use because I mostly like to grow vegetables in my planters, and so I want to give the root system lots of room. There's also 3-tier planters now, and those are great if you're short stature and so you don't think you could reach up to the higher ones, or you just want to have a smaller, more compact planter. As you can see, I'm ready to roll, and I'm really excited about getting these planters planted today. Let me show you the different components and we'll go from there. Now, as my luck would have it, it rained last night, so everything is wet, but this is the basic texture that it comes in. And then this is the basket weave. And I went with fairly dull colors, figuring that the plants will be the highlight, but now I'm questioning why I wanted to get beige. But anyway, they are just so awesome. I'll show you how everything goes together and we'll get some things planted. This is a mover base, and I really like having it at the bottom of all of the tiers. You can lock the wheels, so that's good. But when you unlock them, you can spin it if you need to, or move it to another spot. And just in case you're wondering, I don't move my GreenStalk planters around because I find that the sun hits everything just fine. This is one of the tiers that you plant into, and in my case, there will be 5 of them for each planter. Here's an example of the watering discs that go in between each tier. This is my little buddy who's trying to help me here. I know, I'm busy. This is the water reservoir that goes up at the top. And here's a lid that goes on the very top. Ned thinks GreenStalk Vertical Planters are awesome. Now I have a little tip for you when it comes to putting together a GreenStalk Vertical Planter. In the early days, what I used to do is I would fill a tier with potting soil and plant it, and then I'd set it on the base. And that wasn't too bad, but then I'd plant the next one separately and then set it on top of the previous tier, and so on. Well, that gets kind of heavy. So I think it's much smarter to put the tier you want to plant on the planter and just fill in the soil that way so that you're not doing any extra lifting. So let me show you what I mean. So here's the mover base, and I've unlocked the casters for now because I'm going to need to move it around a little bit. And here is the bottom tier of the planter. So I'm going to set those onto the base, and you can see it really snaps in nicely. And then there's a really important step to do next. Do you see how there's a hole here? That needs to be covered while you're filling the tier with soil, because you want to keep this open. So I'm just using a little plastic bag and a rubber band. I'll fill the tier and then I'll take it off and reuse it for the next tier. So this will definitely come into play when I show you how water moves throughout the tiers. I'm using a good quality organic potting soil, and it's really important to use potting soil in containers rather than garden soil. That's because a lot of times garden soil can become compacted and so water doesn't flow through it as well as it should. Also, garden soil can contain disease pathogens, and you certainly want your plants to get off to the best start possible. So I'm going to fill this tier almost to the top. So what am I going to grow in this bottom tier? Well, this is a small gourd called Thriller, and I thought that would be ideal for this container because my thought process is that as the vines grow, the gourds can rest on the surface of our patio just for a little extra support. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm very excited about growing these. And of course, they need some fertilizer in order to grow well. And I'm going to give them a fertilizer that's high in phosphorus, which is the middle number on fertilizer packages. When it's the highest on the package, that means it's high in phosphorus. So that will help these grow, bloom, and set the little fruits on their vines. Just going to mix that fertilizer in a bit. When you're planting seedlings in a GreenStalk, it's a good idea to have the seedlings leaning out a little bit. And you'll see better why that's so important when I put on the next tier. And then once these are all planted, I'll finish filling in the potting soil into this section. And then the final step for this tier is for me to remove the little baggie. So now I need to put in the first disc, and it's a little hard to see. Maybe you can see it better from the bottom side, but you see how there's a hole here, 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 here. I want to put the hole pointing at the middle of each planting pocket. Just like that. Okay, now it's time to put the next tier on top. And these pockets alternate, plus they have a little section that will latch on to the area here on the first tier. So I'm just carefully putting it in place. And I'll know, oh, there it goes, when it locks down in place. And then I'm just going to check everything all the way around. Yep, this is in place. Time for the plastic bag again and to put in the soil. By the way, I wanted to apologize for the shadows. The sun is almost above the cover on our deck. And then you'll be able to see this much better. What's up next? This is a mini pumpkin called bat wings. And I'm going to do the same drill with putting some high phosphorus fertilizer into the potting soil for this tier. Okay, time to remove the little baggie and put on the next watering disc. And same thing, I need to put the holes pointing to the middle part of the planting pockets. There we go. Time for the next tier. There we go. Baggie back on, and you know the drill. So what's going in the third tier? These are Italian flatleaf parsley seedlings that we started a few weeks ago. And we love using parsley, so this will be great, especially to have it right outside the kitchen. Okay, parsley in. Baggie out. And disc in with the holes pointing towards the center of the pockets. Okay, time for the next layer. For this tier, I'm going to grow 6 bush beans, and the variety is top crop. This is one I've grown before, and it's a great producer. And again, remember that tip about leaning the plants out a little bit, because it makes it much safer for when you're stacking the tiers. You don't want to decapitate anybody, right? Okay, it's finally time for the 5th and final tier on this planter. So I'm removing my plastic bag, putting this disc in here. Holes pointing towards the outside. That looks good. And then I'm going to very carefully put this one into place. Now every year for the top tier of my planters, I like to do a little bit of a flower crown. And so I always plant flowers in the top, partly because they're so pretty, and also because they will attract all sorts of pollinators, and that will be great for those that are blooming and setting fruits. So this year I'm doing zinnias in the top of each planter. This one is scarlet colored and the other is white. Okay, I've got the zinnias planted, and instead of the watering disc going on the top, it gets this large water reservoir. And it also has holes that point towards the center of the pockets. So that's what I need to do. And it also lines up with these little sections in between the pockets, which is great. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so I'm going to plant up the other planter, and then what I want to do is show you how you would water these just normally with a bucket of water basically, or a hose. And then I'm going to show you the ingenious automatic watering system that GreenStalk came up with. I've been using it for the last 3 years, and it is awesome. I'm also going to wheel this out of the way very carefully so that I can plant the other one. Okay, so this tier is completely planted now. Here's the white zinnias that I mentioned earlier. I planted bean seeds here for a yellow bean called Brook Door. In this level, I've got a total of 6 small tomato plants. These are Patio Choice Yellow Cherry Tomato, and this is Orange Hat, which is a dwarf orange cherry tomato. I've grown both of those before and they are awesome. In this level, I planted some basil seeds. The variety is Treviso. And then in the very bottom, I planted a patty pan squash. Now, I mentioned earlier that this is a water reservoir, and there's 2 ways to water your GreenStalk planters. The first way is how I started out. So I just would take a bucket of water, fill the reservoir, and this is where those holes that I was showing you come into play, because what it's doing is it's slowly sending the water down layer by layer, and the water is going through the holes that are pointing to the different pockets. This is really ingenious. It works great. The only problem is if you want to go out of town or something, you're not there to put a bucket of water into the top of each of your planters. You could ask somebody to water for you, but maybe that's not an option. So I wanted to show you the automatic watering system because it is amazing. It's not complicated. As a matter of fact, GreenStalk is fabulous about really making easy to follow instructions. So I can hear this slowly going down, and then it will drain out somewhere along the bottom. I can't see where it's pointing just yet. Oh, it's just coming out. Okay, let's talk about the automatic watering system for our GreenStalk planters. The first thing you need to know is that under our deck we have a faucet, and attached to it is a timer that's battery operated, and that controls when the water turns on and off. There is a hose attached to this that goes over towards the GreenStalk planters. And as far as the length of time the water runs, it's pretty crazy. It's just 1 minute a day for both planters during the springtime. When the weather starts getting warmer, we'll up it to 1 minute twice a day. And then if it were to get really hot this summer, we're willing to up it again to 1 minute 3 times a day. But you can see they really don't need a whole lot of water. Now this is where that hose comes out from under our deck. And at this point, Bill has used some black poly pipe in order to bring it around to the southern edge of our patio, because we knew that's where we wanted to put the 2 GreenStalks. So this is part of the watering system, and this specifically is black poly pipe, and then it has little brackets that attach it to the different tiers of the planter so that it's nice and stable. Up at the top is a flow control valve, and this is the dispenser that delivers the water into the water reservoir. The last component is this lid, and that's really important because you don't want anything to go in there such as leaves that might clog up the system. So that is a great way to keep that part protected. So that's how it works. And this whole kit came from GreenStalk. The instructions were very clear and easy to follow. And it's really been a game changer because I don't even have to think about the water other than to be sure I check on the plants to see how everything's growing. Now there are a couple of accessories that I like to use for my GreenStalks when I have special circumstances I need to take care of. This is the level that I planted the basil seeds in. And basil really likes heat in order to germinate. So GreenStalk makes these little seed houses, and they will keep the seeds both protected and give them a little bit more warmth. They also make these little trellises for plants that need some extra support. And today's quite a breezy day, which is making me nervous about these little bean seedlings. And so all you have to do is just slip it in like so, push it down into the soil, and that will give the plant a little extra support just to be on the safe side. I can take them out in another week or so. I've been a GreenStalk affiliate for a few years now because I really believe in their products. As I mentioned earlier, it's a family-owned company. They are based in the US. That's where everything is made. These are made from food-grade plastics. They have a 5-year guarantee, and I've had them for 5 years now, and I have no problems with them whatsoever. And they have amazing customer service. That's why I believe in them. They are really decent folks. So I do have a special code if you're interested in buying anything from GreenStalk, and I'm going to put it into the description for this video on my YouTube channel. But I'm very excited to have them planted for this year. Looking forward to seeing them take off running. Although I did put the brakes on. So I think we'll be okay. But I promise to give you updates throughout the growing season. Thanks so much for watching today, everybody. Happy gardening.